You've probably seen it, maybe walking your dog or just looking out into the garden. An animal, could be a local fox, maybe a stray, even sometimes a pet, suffering with this really severe skin condition.
Yeah.
Patches of fur missing, raw skin, crusty sores, and just constant scratching. It's really heartbreaking to see.
It is.
And almost always, people say, oh, that's mange. But what is that exactly? Why does it seem, so common, especially with rescue animals and wildlife that are living closer to us now?
Right.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to unpack mange, really get into what it is, the kind of impact it has, and the whole complex picture of science, nature, and what we can do about it. We've pulled together a lot of sources for you: veterinary research, wildlife studies, practical advice from rescues. Our goal today is to sort of distill the key stuff, cut through the noise, and give you a solid understanding.
Yeah, and that understanding is so important because, mange isn't just about spotting a disease. It's about seeing this whole interplay between parasites, animal health, even how ecosystems work. It's pretty complex.
Okay, let's get into it then. The word mange, what are we actually talking about? Like down at the microscopic level, what's going on?
Okay, so at its heart, mange is basically a skin disease caused by parasitic mites. It's highly contagious, often really debilitating.
Right.
The main one we'll focus on, especially for dogs and foxes, is the Sarcoptes scabies mite.
Okay.
In dogs, we call it canine scabies.
Right.
In foxes, Sarcoptic mange. Same mite, essentially. And these things are tiny, like 2 to 4 millimeters, barely visible.
Wow.
But yeah, don't let the size fool you. Their nasty habit is burrowing. They don't just sit on the skin, they dig into it.
Ugh. And it's not just the digging that causes all that suffering, is it? Our sources mentioned something else.
Exactly. The burrowing itself is irritating, sure, but the really severe symptoms, that's largely an allergic reaction. As the female mites tunnel, they lay eggs and they leave behind fecal matter.
Right.
And it's the proteins in their saliva and that fecal stuff that triggers this intense immune response in the animal, like a massive, constant allergic reaction happening inside the skin.
So that's what drives the crazy itching.
That's it. That's the pruritus, that nonstop agonizing itch.
Pruritus, okay. And from the animal's point of view, this sounds just brutal. The sources described, severe hair loss.
Yep. Alopecia.
Skin rashes, inflammation, those awful scabs and crusts forming. But the worst part seems to be the self-inflicted damage. They scratch and bite themselves raw, trying to get relief.
Absolutely. And that just opens the door for secondary bacterial infections, which makes everything so much worse. It's this horrible downward spiral. Irritation, scratching, wounds, infection, more irritation.
A vicious cycle.
Totally. And this brings up something important. Sarcoptic mange is the most common, often the most severe, but it's not the only kind. There's also demodectic mange.
Oh, how's that different?
Well, demodectic mange is caused by Demodex mites. And the interesting thing is, these mites actually live pretty harmlessly in the hair follicles of most healthy mammals, even us.
Really?
Yeah. Demodectic mange only becomes a problem when the animal's immune system is weakened, maybe from stress, illness, sometimes genetics.
Ah, I see. So it's more about the animal's internal defenses failing.
Exactly. It's like the body can't keep these normally harmless residents in check anymore, whereas sarcoptic mange is more like an external invasion.
Got it. So two different scenarios almost. Invasion versus internal vulnerability.
Precisely. And then there's notohydric mange feline mange, caused by Notohydrus cautis, similar to sarcoptic, but mainly affects cats, and it's pretty rare in foxes.
Okay.
But knowing these differences highlights, why some animals get it worse than others. The animal's overall health and immune status is just critical.
The sarcoptic mange, that contagiousness is a huge factor.
Oh, massive.
The sources really stressed that just being near an infected animal, or even in the same environment, like a shelter, a den, maybe even a groomer, can spread it.
Yep. Shared bedding, dens, anywhere they hang out. That's why isolation during treatment is so vital. You have to break the chain of transmission.
Makes sense.
And the mite's life cycle, it's about 17 to 21 days. Females burrow, lay eggs, leave waste behind. That constant cycle is what fuels the frantic scratching and biting. It's a tiny enemy, but yeah, it causes huge suffering.
And that suffering becomes really, really visible when we look at foxes, especially urban foxes. Mange is a major issue for them.
Absolutely devastating, often. In foxes, sarcoptic mange usually starts around the tail, the hindquarters. Maybe the fur is denser there. Then it just spreads relentlessly over the whole body.
And you get that horrible crusty skin.
Yeah, intentional itchy crusts. And if it's left untreated, a fox with severe mange. Well, they usually don't survive more than maybe 4 to 6 months.
Wow, that's grim.
It really is. Without help, it's often a death sentence in the wild.
Can we paint a picture? What does a fox with severe mange actually look like, behave like? The sources had some stark details.
Yeah, they did. First, there's that constant agonizing itch, the pruritus. They're always scratching, biting, gnawing at themselves.
Non-stop.
Then the hair loss, the alopecia, starts at the back, rump and tail, but spreads forward as they, groom or scratch. They can end up almost completely bald.
Oh, man.
You see the crusts, the open sores from scratching, the secondary infections setting in. Sometimes there's even a distinct smell, kind of musty, or sometimes described as sickly sweet.
And their eyes?
Yeah.
Something about crusty eyes?
Yeah, conjunctivitis. The lining of the eye gets inflamed, swollen, crusty, makes it hard for them to see properly.
And their behavior changes drastically, too,
Oh,
right?
totally. They might wander aimlessly, often during the day, which is unusual for foxes. They lose their natural fear of humans, a real sign something's wrong.
Because they're just desperate.
Desperate, disoriented, yeah. And you see that constant biting and scratching. They often drink huge amounts of water, too, for minutes at a time.
Why so much water?
Severe dehydration. They lose a lot of fluid through that broken, inflamed skin.
Oh, okay.
And you might see them holding a back leg up just because the skin is so sore and cracked. They get really thin, emaciated, lose maybe up to a third of their body weight.
Because they can't hunt.
Exactly. Too weak, too distracted by the itching, too sick. And then there's the cold.
Hypothermia.
Yeah. Without their fur for insulation, they can't regulate their body temperature, especially when it's cold or wet. That's often why they end up seeking shelter in sheds or greenhouses, just trying to stay warm.
There was that wolf study mentioned.
Right, the Yellowstone wolves showed that wolves with severe mange lost something like 65 to 78% more heat than healthy ones.
That really puts it in perspective. The energy drain must be incredible.
Huge. Just a constant struggle for survival. And it's not just individual tragedies. The impact on whole fox populations can be massive.
By Bristol example.
Exactly. Bristol in 1994, mange wiped out maybe 95% of the foxes there in just 2 years.
95%.
Yeah. And recovery is incredibly slow. A decade later, the population still hadn't bounced back. It shows how one disease can just completely disrupt an ecosystem.
Wow. A tiny mite causing such huge ripples.
And it hits breeding, too. Fewer females breeding successfully. Sometimes males become infertile. Just slows everything down.
And those ecological ripples.
Yeah.
Like in Sweden.
Yeah, when fox numbers crash there due to mange, their prey hares, grouse, even young roe deer, the population shot up. It shows how interconnected everything is.
It really does. It makes you wonder about immunity, though. Can they fight it off naturally?
Well, some studies suggest maybe some level of immunity can develop over time. But the general consensus, especially from rescues dealing with it hands-on, is that once mange gets severe, recovery without intervention is rare. The suffering just overwhelms their system.
Okay, so understanding all that, the suffering, the impact, what can actually be done?
Right.
If you see a suffering fox or even if your kid gets it, there seem to be a few different approaches, some quite debated.
Right. So the conventional veterinary route uses what are called caricidal drugs, basically, mite killers.
Okay.
Medications like ivermectin, selamectin that's in products like Stronghold Spot On, and fluorolaner, which is in oral treatments like Bravecto. These are very effective.
How effective?
Success rates close to 100% when used correctly. They work by messing with the mite's nervous system, paralyzing and killing them. Stops the life cycle, stops the suffering. Can be given as pills, spot-ons, or injections.
Sounds straightforward for pets. But what about wild foxes?
That's where it gets complicated. These drugs are prescription only and for good reason. Trying to treat a wild fox with them, what some call wild treating, is generally discouraged, sometimes even illegal.
Why is that?
Several big risks. One, non-target animals might eat the medicated food, pets, other wildlife, and these drugs can be toxic. Ivermectin, for example, is dangerous for collies, sheepdogs, Jack Russells, some other breeds.
Right. Toxicity. What else?
Getting the dose right for a wild animal is really hard. Repeat dosing is often needed, which is tricky. And just the stress of trying to catch or handle a wild animal can sometimes do more harm than good.
So what's the alternative for severe cases in the wild?
For really bad cases, the best bet is often catching the animal carefully and getting it to a wildlife rescue or vet. They can provide warmth, fluids, antibiotics for those secondary infections, and the right dose of medication. But yeah, catching them is tough, stressful for the fox, and they might lose their territory. It's usually a last resort.
Okay, that makes the challenges clear. But then there's this other approach, particularly in the UK for foxes, the homeopathic remedies.
Oh, yes. That's definitely a topic that comes up a lot.
Often things like arsenicum album and sulfur 30C or soranum, given in food for weeks.
That's right. And organizations like the National Fox Welfare Society and the Fox Project have been sending these out free for years, decades even.
And they report successes.
They report spectacular recoveries and lots of feedback about foxes' coats improving, thousands of treatments sent out.
But the controversy. Scientifically, homeopathy. Well, the evidence isn't there beyond placebo, right?
Yeah.
Because of the extreme dilution.
Exactly. That's the scientific standpoint. Like you said, dilutions like 1 part arsenicum to 1 quintillion parts water. Statistically, there's likely 0 molecules of the original stuff left, so conventional science struggles to see how it could have a direct effect.
So, why the reported successes? What could be happening?
That's the fascinating question. The sources suggest a few possibilities, maybe a placebo effect, but on the owner's perception. Or maybe, and this seems quite likely, it's the supportive care that comes with it.
What do you mean?
When someone is putting drops in food every day, they're almost certainly providing regular, good quality food and fresh water.
Okay.
And that the improved nutrition and hydration can make a massive difference to a weakened animal. It boosts their immune system, helps them fight dehydration. So maybe the fox recovers because its own body, finally getting the resources it needs, manages to overcome the mites.
So the remedy is more about the act of consistent caring.
It could well be a major factor. The consistent feeding, the water, the attention. It's powerful supportive care. Even the sources promoting homeopathic options often note they seem less effective for moderate to severe cases where maybe just food isn't enough.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. The power of just basic care.
Absolutely crucial. Regardless of anything else, supportive care is key. Good nutrition, high protein, healthy fats, and fresh water are vital. Mangy animals are starving and dehydrated.
Makes sense.
Supplements can help too. Salmon oil, for instance, rich in omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Great for skin healing, coat regrowth, boosting the immune system generally.
And for pets, there are specific products vets might use.
Yeah, things like antiseptic shampoos like Bioseb to manage the crusts and scales. Medicated wipes like Malicetic for soothing hot spots and cleaning wounds. And nutritional supplements like the Zesty Paws salmon oil you mentioned. It's all about supporting the body's healing process.
Okay, so pulling all this together, if you, listening, spot an animal, especially a fox, showing signs of mange, what's the first thing you should actually do?
Good question. First step. Observe carefully. Is it definitely mange or could it be normal seasonal molting?
How can you tell the difference?
Molting usually involves patches of old fur falling out with new fur growing underneath. Mange typically involves bare, inflamed, crusty skin, not healthy new growth.
Okay.
And try to get photos or video that really helps assess how bad it is.
Right. And then, who do you call?
Contact your local wildlife rescue organization. In the UK, places like helpwildlife.co.uk or the Fox Project. In the US, maybe the DCHS Wildlife Center or similar local groups. They have the expertise and know the local regulations. Don't just jump in without advice.
Because trying to help could backfire.
Potentially, yes. They can give the best guidance for your specific situation.
Okay. And practically, what can the average person do while waiting for advice or rescue?
Providing food and water is almost always helpful. High-protein food like dog or cat food, cooked chicken, and fresh water. That helps combat the weight loss and dehydration, gives them strength.
Even if you don't use any remedies.
Especially then. Basic sustenance can make a huge difference.
What about trapping? You mentioned it's a last resort for foxes.
Yeah, generally. It's very stressful for them, hard to do successfully as they're smart and wary. And the risk of orphaning cubs if it's a vixen. Plus, there are often trapping laws.
Like needing a license.
Sometimes, yeah. Like in Wisconsin, unless it's deemed a nuisance on your own property. If trapping is considered, it absolutely must be done in consultation with a wildlife rescue. They know how to do it safely and humanely, using the right traps, bait, and handling protocols. And you have to be prepared for catching other animals by mistake.
Right. And just to reiterate, definitely don't try treating with prescription meds yourself.
Please don't. The risks we talked about, toxicity to other animals, wrong dosage, legality, potential harm to pregnant or nursing females, it's just not worth the gamble. Leave medication to the vets and licensed wildlife rehabilitators.
Okay. A really practical worry for people is cross-contamination. Can my dog, or can I, catch mange from that fox in the garden?
That's a super common question, understandably. So the Sarcoptes scabies mites, while technically the same species, have these host-specific variants, like var, vulpes for foxes, var conus for dogs, va homines for humans.
So they prefer their own host.
Pretty much. They're adapted. So can a dog get mange from a fox? Yes, it can happen. But often modern flea and tick treatments that many pets are on offer some protection anyway. If you're worried, definitely talk to your vet. They might suggest specific preventative measures.
And what about humans? Can we get fox mange?
Fox mites can get onto humans and cause a temporary itchy rash. It feels a bit like scabies. But the key thing is, they generally can't complete their life cycle or reproduce on us. We're not the right host.
So it goes away on its own?
Usually, yeah. It's self-limiting. Disappears in a couple of weeks, typically. But still, best to wear gloves if you ever have to handle an infected animal or contaminated bedding.
And other wildlife.
Badgers can sometimes get it too. So yeah, basic precautions are sensible. Isolate infected pets, good hygiene, vet advice for prevention.
Wow. Okay, so what really stands out from this whole deep dive for me is just how complex mange is. This tiny mite has such a huge ripple effect on the animal itself, its health, its behavior, but also on whole populations, whole ecosystems.
It's true.
Whether it's your own pet or a fox in the garden, it feels like being informed and compassionate is key. Acting early, providing that supportive care like good food and water, it seems really crucial.
Absolutely. And ultimately, the goal is helping that suffering animal get better, right? Seeing them recover, that's what matters, whatever the specific method involves, understanding the pros and cons.
Yeah. We really hope this discussion has given you, our listener, a clearer picture, maybe a bit more confidence to know what to do, whether that's helping directly, supporting a rescue group, or just understanding what these animals are up against.
And remembering that wildlife health is tied to environmental health. Helping one contributes to the other. It's all connected.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. As our towns and cities expand and we live closer to wildlife, how does that change our responsibility, our ability to step in? And what sort of new ideas or collaborations might come out of this closer contact for tackling diseases like mange in the future?